Starfire flew towards the night sky over Ponyville, the breeze making his mane, tail, and feathers stream and flow in the wind like a flag. The ground below him was far away now, and the houses looked like little toys. In the distance, he could see the mountains and Canterlot, the grand golden and white city perched on the side of a tall mountain. As he drew closer to the night, he had a sudden strange feeling, as if the very aura of the night was touching him. It was chilling and he shivered. Suddenly, he felt the strangest and possibly the scariest sensation ever in his life. It felt like he was inside water, but it was dry and cool like the air. He felt as though he was literally passing or swimming through an invisible force. After what felt like a long time, he finally escaped the sensation or force and toppled onto a cloud, gasping. After a moment of recovery, he looked up at his surroundings. It looked as though he was inside a huge space with walls, a floor, and a ceiling made of dark blue and gray cloud, with the night sky shifting and moving with it. Near the end of the space was what looked like a sleeping form. It was Princess Luna. "Princess Luna!" Starfire called out, scrambling to his hooves and galloping towards the sleeping form. He had almost reached her when there was a bright flash of light and a rumbling sound. The cloud near Starfire's hooves exploded with a strange white flame, and he jumped back, saying, "Whoa! What was that?" "It was me," a voice said behind him. Starfire turned to see Yuro standing there and watching him with his cold, calm gaze. "Are you the one called Yuro?" Starfire asked the other alicorn. "I am," Yuro replied. "Is it true you're trying to make Nightmare Moon return? Because it won't work!" Starfire shouted. "She cares too much about her friends to harm them again." Yuro stayed silent. Starfire, feeling riled up, turned back toward Princess Luna and tried to get to her again. But when she was just within his reach, he suddenly smacked into what felt like another invisible force, but solid this time. He shook his head and reached out his hoof to feel around. It felt like he touched a soft, dry substance like cloud, only unseen. He put both hooves on the invisible wall and started banging on it, trying to wake Princess Luna up. "Princess Luna!" he yelled at the top of his lungs. "Wake up, please! He's going to turn you back into Nightmare Moon!" "It's useless," Yuro said. Angry and scared, Starfire whipped towards him, wings outstretched in an instinctive defensive posture. "What do you mean it's useless?" Starfire asked, glaring at the dark alicorn. Yuro walked casually over to the invisible wall and placed his hoof on it. "You see, my dear pony, I am the darkness that Luna had accepted when she first became Nightmare Moon. She accepted me, and I united with her and we became one and the same. Once I was in control, she did the rest. Well, she thought she was ruling alone with my help. The truth is, I was ruling through her." "What?" Starfire took a step back. Yuro gazed at the sleeping princess of the night with a soft expression of fondness. "Ponies do not appreciate the night as they should. While they play and rejoice in the sun, the moon puts them to sleep and they take its beauty for granted. Yes, you may say some ponies love the night, but it is not enough for me." As Yuro said this, a darkness started to flow from his hoof through the invisible force towards Luna. Starfire started to panic, not knowing what to do to stop it. Yuro's eyes flashed and glowed as the darkness twisted, slowly coming closer and closer to the princess. "I need every pony to love the night," the dark alicorn said, his voice growing lower and more menacing. "The light may have its own glory, but the night shall glorify Equestria forever." Starfire couldn't think clearly. He was only a normal, average unicorn, new to Ponyville and its culture. He had never seen an entity of evil, much less met one face to face. He wasn't a fighter, and even his magic wasn't too impressive. But the one thing that he did know was that Ponyville, possibly all of Equestria and its princesses, were in danger, and it was time for him to do something about it, no matter what it took. Desperation took over fear, and Starfire suddenly leapt at Yuro with all his strength and courage and knocked him over. The darkness inching towards Luna faded and disappeared. Yuro quickly recovered and stood again, his wings outstretched in a defensive posture. Starfire quickly scrambled to his hooves again and faced Yuro. The dark alicorn's eyes flashed and he suddenly seemed to grow darker. "If I were you," Yuro growled, spreading his legs apart in a battle stance, "I wouldn't mess with me." Starfire suddenly realized his error. He didn't know how to fight, especially not against such a powerful entity such as Yuro. But for some reason, he couldn't turn and run away. It was like he was stuck standing his ground. I won't let you consume Equestria with the night, he said, trying to feel braver. The night has its own glory too. If there wasn't day, then Equestria would fall. There has to be daytime in order for there to be proper order and balance to the lives of every creature. Wise words for such an inferior pony, said Yuro, grinning evilly. Words don't speak to me. Actions do. The next moment, the alicorn was gone. Starfire looked around, trying to find the enemy. Behind you, Yuro said. Starfire whipped around, only to be sent flying backwards by Yuro's armored hoof. He hit the cloud floor and quickly got up again, shaking himself. At least the floor is soft, he thought to himself, but that still hurt a lot. Yuro shot forward and raised his hoof to strike again, but as he brought it down, Starfire caught it in mid-swing. It was a battle of strength as each pony struggled to force the other's hoof back. While Starfire was distracted with that, Yuro kicked his legs out from under him, knocking him to the floor. Before Starfire could stand up again, he shot at him with a blast of magic. Starfire rolled quickly out of the way and stood, backing away. Yuro backed up, then raised his hoof towards Luna again. Starfire galloped towards him, but stumbled backwards when the floor in front of him was hit by a blast of Yuro's magic. Come any closer and you're nothing but a lifeless shell, the dark alicorn said, darkness flowing from his hoof towards the princess. Starfire dashed for him again and was hit by a blast of magic. He fell back, clutching at the place where he was hit. What can I do? He thought with panic. He's too strong. There's no way I'll be able to. He looked up at the ceiling. Sunlight, he thought. With a new goal in mind, he stood up, ignoring the pain, and backed away from Yuro, putting some distance between them. Yuro got the same idea as well, and before Starfire knew it, the dark alicorn teleported behind him and took him in a headlock. Starfire struggled to release himself and shot a blast of his magic at the ceiling in his panic. Yuro forced his head down and his magic created a large hole in the floor through the clouds. The dark alicorn shoved his opponent towards the hole, but Starfire remembered he had wings and flapped them wildly, lifting himself into the air. He took off towards the ceiling, intending to use his magic to blow a hole in it to let the sunlight stream in. Yuro shot into the air after Starfire and grabbed him by the tail, pulling him back down with him. The dark alicorn folded his wings, and Starfire couldn't handle the weight, and they both fell towards the cloudy floor. When they reached it, Yuro twisted, landing on his hooves and slamming Starfire down onto the floor. Before Starfire had time to escape, Yuro pinned him down with his hooves. You think you can stop me? The alicorn growled, his eyes flashing dangerously. Starfire struggled, but to no avail. Don't do this, he gasped. You'll only destroy Equestria! Yuro tilted his head downward, his horn pointing straight at Starfire's face. I don't think so, he said as he grinned in triumph. He shot a blast of magic right into Starfire's face. When the cloudiness cleared, Starfire was nowhere to be seen, and there was just a hole through the clouds where the magic hit. Yuro looked around. Where are you, Starfire? He murmured. A moment later, he was unexpectedly tackled from behind and pinned down by his opponent. He struggled and twisted around to face Starfire. You can still end this, Starfire said, desperate to change Yuro's mind. Get out of my face, Yuro shouted. Angry and frustrated, he shot another blast of magic at Starfire. But Starfire was prepared for this to happen, so he quickly got out of the way of the blast, and Yuro accidentally hit the ceiling of the clouds with his magic. He got into a sitting position and felt a strange warmth come over him. When he looked up, he had to shield his eyes with his hoof. Sunlight was streaming through a hole in the ceiling down on him. No, he said. He jumped up to his hooves and desperately galloped towards the sleeping form of Luna. Starfire galloped in front of him to block his way. Stop this craziness! He yelled at the dark alicorn. Yuro stopped in his tracks and looked at the pony blocking his path. They both stood facing each other, each one huffing, trying to catch his breath from the fight. Eventually, Yuro raised his head higher and said, You're a persistent one, aren't you? There's one thing I don't understand. Why do you love this town so much? You just got here. What's so special about it? Starfire thought for a moment. I don't know. I just feel like I was called here for something. I feel like Maybe I'll find my true destiny here. Yuro nodded. Suddenly, the entire place started to rumble and shake. Starfire looked around, startled. More holes appeared in the ceiling, and beams of sunlight shot through them like bright spears. "What's happening?" Starfire exclaimed, trying to keep his footing as the place shook more. Yuro looked over at Princess Luna. The sleeping princess brightened and then disappeared with a flash. Starfire was confused. Yuro then turned back towards him, his original cold and calm expression back. "The night is collapsing. The day shall have its glory again." Starfire stared at Yuro with confusion. "I'm no monster, my dear Starfire," the dark alicorn said. The place shook and rumbled again, and more sunlight streamed through, surrounding the two ponies. "I could have left her to die, and I could have killed you easily. But you intrigue me, young pony. Your aura is different somehow." A ring of white fire suddenly surrounded Yuro, and his form started to waver and shimmer. "Well done, Starfire," he said. "I would like us to do this again someday." The dark alicorn's form twisted and shaped into a constantly shifting, shimmering form of darkness, and disappeared in a bright flash of light. The place shook again, and Starfire stumbled back. He suddenly felt a strange tingling sensation and turned to look at his back. His wings were slowly disappearing. "You never told me the effects were temporary!" he yelled, panicking. He tried to flap his wings, but they wouldn't work properly anymore. "Oh, I hate magic!" As Cerise, Sakura, and Mare watched, the night over Ponyville was suddenly penetrated with beams of sunlight. The darkness as stars started to waver and shimmer like water. "He's doing it!" Cerise exclaimed. "And I thought he was an idiot!" "Oh, thank goodness!" Mare sighed with relief. They were rejoicing when they heard fast hoof steps coming towards them. They turned to see Spectrum Haze galloping to them. "Is that Starfire fellow all right?" he gasped, coming to a stop. "I don't know exactly," Mare said. "He managed to make the night start to go away, though." Spectrum Haze stood panting and looked up at the sky over Ponyville. He looked very concerned. "I forgot to tell him that the effects were temporary," he said urgently. "His wings could disappear at any moment now." Mare and the others gasped in horror. "This is terrible!" the mayor exclaimed. "What do we do? What if he doesn't make it?" "Look!" Cerise yelled, pointing at something in the sky in the distance. They all looked, and to their horror and dismay, saw Starfire falling from the sky. "Oh no," Spectrum said. "Can't you teleport him to the ground with your magic?" Cerise said. Spectrum shook his head helplessly. "He's too far out of my range," he said. "I wouldn't make it in time." As they watched Starfire fall closer and closer to the ground, there was a sudden bright flash of light, and he disappeared. Moments later, they saw him reappear on the ground in another flash of light a distance away from them. Starfire lay on his back, facing upwards toward the sky. At first he thought he was dead, but then he felt the hard grassy ground beneath him. He moved one of his limbs. So was he still alive? Didn't he hit the ground? He didn't feel any pain except for the injuries he got in his fight with Yuro. He slowly opened his eyes to see Mare, Sakura, Cerise, and Spectrum Haze standing over him with expressions of concern. "Is this heaven?" Starfire asked. They looked at each other with relief, and Spectrum held out his hoof to him. Starfire hesitated, then took his hoof, and Spectrum pulled him to his hooves. "Are you all right, my friend?" he asked. "Yeah," Starfire replied. He turned to Mare and Sakura. "So, Ponyville is safe now?" "I believe so," the mayor said, smiling and looking at the town in the distance. The sky over it was normal, bright and sunny, as it should be. Starfire turned to Cerise, who was doing her best to keep an annoyed face. "That was very foolish of you to go up there like that," she said, flipping her mane back with a swish of her head. "But I am glad you did." Starfire smiled at that. "The sky is clear and bright as day," Sakura said. "You, Starfire, chose the right way. If you ever need me, you may call me your friend. I hope you'll stay close to the very end." "Thank you, Sakura," Starfire grinned. The zebra smiled, nodded, and then walked away. Spectrum Haze said, "Well, I suppose I must be off now. Oh, and I'm dreadfully sorry for forgetting to tell you the wings were temporary. Will you please forgive me? I forgive you. Starfire stuck out his hoof. Spectrum smiled and shook it. After giving a quick wink, he teleported away. I will call another town meeting telling every pony that everything has been dealt with, Mayor Mare said, starting to walk to Ponyville. The whole town needs to hear of our hero, Starfire. Starfire gulped. You don't need to do that. It's not necessary. Oh, nonsense, the mayor said. We should honor the wonderful unicorn who saved our town from a dark fate. Mayor, please, it's not necessary, Starfire shouted, galloping after her. Cerise watched him trot away to Ponyville and then looked up into the sky. The sun was starting to set. The princesses must have come back, she thought, smiling with satisfaction that everything would be fine. When she looked back down, she was startled to see a strange pony looking at her from a short distance away. The pony was of a brown color with red eyes that seemed to glare directly into Cerise's soul. After a few moments of staring at each other, the strange pony smirked and looked up into the sky. Cerise looked up to see what the other pony was looking at, but there was nothing unusual to see. When she looked back where the pony was, though, they were gone. Cerise shook her head, muttering something about drinking too much cider, and then trotted away to Ponyville.